It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
He's fried. .06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It's Wednesday already? Really? Okay. Over the hump we go. Okay, now you're waiting to hear the usual stuff that I play this time in the morning. Yesterday, there was a computer that failed here in the studio, and it's still giving me a hard time. And that's where I keep all of that stuff. Now, I still have other computers around me I can use, but where I play the audio out of is the problem for that. So all of that fun stuff, I'm probably not going to be able to do it today. All right. There, as usual, is just too much to cover right now. News cycle-wise, this has been a really busy year. And just when I wondered what next is going to happen, because we keep hearing things, getting things in the news that, did you see this coming? Did you see that coming? Well, here's the latest. Yesterday, as I was driving home, I heard that a bunch of pagers went off and killed a bunch of people. Hezbollah. Yeah, Hezbollah didn't do it. They were the victims. How does it feel, Hezbollah, to be the victim for once? How does it feel? But okay, well, and then I thought, pagers, this was an interesting idea. Right away, everybody blames Israel, and you can go ahead and think it's them too. That's fine. Israel at this point has neither confirmed nor denied. Now, I just got the latest number of dead, because when I first heard that a bunch of pagers went off, I thought, oh, so that's going to cause a lot of injuries. They made explosives out of pagers. I mean, how much exploding can happen there? And actually, well, apparently quite a bit. There's now 12 dead and a bunch more injured. So here is one of the stories that I have in front of me here. And the pagers that exploded had been newly acquired by Hezbollah after the group's leader ordered members to stop using cell phones, warning that they can be tracked by Israeli intelligence. Hezbollah officials told the Associated Press, no, don't talk to the Associated Press. And they're not going to get the story right. That's all right. They told the Associated Press the pagers were a new brand the group had not used before. Now, you see, to me, I thought, and I know it's horrible to think things like this, but my first thought was, pagers still exist? Okay. And I thought we kind of got past the pager thing. I didn't know pagers still existed. But okay, guess what? Hey, pagers still exist. So, all right, they were able to get some. At about 3:30 p.m. local time on Tuesday, pagers started heating up and then exploded in the pockets and hands of those carrying them. So the way the media is reporting this right now is, as the pagers started beeping going off, and some people, they went off in their pockets, which can be really bad if you're a guy and carrying it in your front pocket. And that did, I'm not just saying that did happen. But for a lot of people, they pulled the pager out to take a look at it, and it exploded in their hand and in their face. So, okay, about 3:30 p.m. Tuesday, the pager started heating up and then exploded in the pockets, hands of those people carrying them, particularly in the southern Beirut suburb and, a different region, eastern Lebanon and so on. Hezbollah has a strong presence there, where several Hezbollah members were wounded. Lebanese security officials say a Hezbollah official told them that. Hezbollah spoke on a condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to speak to the press. I would not be so concerned that a member of my group was speaking to the press. It would be more like, why did you pick AP News? All right. So the story here says, yes, because when you need mission-critical infrastructure, and by the way, this is like Mission Impossible stuff, always choose some new, untested outfit. To be fair, the Department of Defense sometimes makes that choice, albeit with more oversight over product manufacturing. Nor are we alone in that either. I wonder, they didn't think to do this. Nobody, when they got their pagers, and the pagers worked, but nobody thought to open it to see. Who would think of that? Open it up, check out the inside of it. Here's something on, I'm still getting used to X rather than Twitter. South Korea removed 1,300 cameras from its military bases after discovering they were designed to feed back to a Chinese server. Oh, okay. Yeah, so South Korea has cameras all over the place looking at critical things, and they're online feeding that information right to China. It's back to the pagers, however, which were part of a critical security strategy for the terror group. Don't use cell phones, use pagers. Did Hezbollah ever bother to inspect the pagers before? Again, who would even think of that? Now, I want to know who thought of the idea, because they would probably have to move fast on this idea. So in other words, this Hezbollah leader says, I don't want you using cell phones anymore, get pagers. And right away somebody says, we can make a bomb out of that. And then they have to hurry up and do it. Now, the guy writing the story I'm reading from, but how did Israel rig the pagers? Now, right away assuming Israel, and you can, I understand. If anybody has the sophistication to do it and the kind of creativity to think of something like this, it would be Israel. But right now, Israel's not confirming or denying anything. Why would they? Some suggest a malware implant that overloaded the lithium-ion battery. But lithium-ion fires are usually incendiary, not explosive. The images seen on Tuesday, the story said, shows signs of detonation. And I've seen on the news a few of these going off. It definitely looks like an explosion to me. That raises the possibility Israel was aware of a shipment of pagers heading to Hezbollah and managed to get a hold of them and modify them. Most pagers are that use replaceable batteries rather than rechargeable batteries. And again, when's the last time you had a pager? Some of you, not at all. At least that was true back in the 1980s and 1990s as far as the batteries. When pagers were in common use, that would make more sense for a distribution network. So the guy who's writing this article is trying to figure out how this was done. Sky News and Arab Al Jazeera now report that Israelis intercepted the delivery of pagers, modified them with explosive charges. Again, who thinks of this stuff? And not just thinks of it. Who knows how to do it? Yeah, Heidi, John, and Granite Canyon. Morning, Glenn. No sympathy for the terrorists. Yeah, I get it. Sky News Arabia quotes sources saying that today's large-scale pager attack, did you ever think you would hear those words? Large-scale pager attack in Lebanon was possible because the Mossad spy agency, they got a hold of Hezbollah's communication devices before they were handed over to the terror group. The Israeli spy agency placed a quantity of highly explosive materials on the batteries of the devices, and detonated them by raising temperatures of the batteries, according to sources. Al Jazeera quotes Lebanese security sources saying that the weight of the explosives placed in each device was below 20 grams, and that the pagers were blown up were imported 5 months ago. An investigation is being conducted into how the explosive charges were activated, but maybe heating them up again. How exactly do you do that? So imagine how much time and effort to install all of that in all of those different pagers, and to be able to do it without being caught doing it. You gotta find the pagers that are en route, get a hold of them. That's the hard part. Get a hold of them, modify them, and get them back into shipment without anyone knowing that you had done it. And somebody must have thought this out in advance, knowing that this could be done, because, again, the sophistication of it is so fast. Okay. Hezbollah may have handled its pager problem and can see they understand security. Okay, I'm just reading the ending of the story here. I do get a laugh out of Hezbollah, then turns and says, "We will get revenge." This has been going on for thousands of years in the Middle East. Everybody's getting revenge on everybody else for the last act. And it just goes on and on and on and now we're going to get revenge for that. Yeah, okay. I'm with you, John, ID John there in Granite Canyon. No sympathy for the terrorists. Well, as far as terrorists are concerned, they're used to doing things like this to people. So they just hate it when someone does it to them. How dare you? 6:16 is the time. Wake up, Wyoming.
Download the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Listen anywhere and chat live with Glenn during the show on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
To empower families like Ken's.
I wouldn't be living as good of a life with ALS if it wasn't for MDA. MDA is helping people live stronger and love longer. Learn more at MDA.org today.
.623 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So, all right. I decided to see if there were any more updates on the pager killings, which I'm still just amazed at because I've never heard of such a thing before. Using pagers who has pagers anymore? But apparently there's still a thing. I thought we were done with pagers. I really did. And then, Hezbollah ordered a bunch, and it looks like Israel, I think. Let's jump on this. Let's take advantage of it. Who thinks this stuff up? And then makes basically explosives out of them and gets them to the terrorists, and they have no idea that this has happened. So now, total killed 12. And it says literally 3,000 wounded. Now, by the wounded could mean any level of wounded. There are people who lost fingers. There are people who might have just been cut, scraped by this. So I don't know what level of wounded. But, yeah, some of the wounds are serious. People, facial wounds, hands are gone, And, yeah, there were 2 kids that were killed in this, too, by the way. So I wanted the update on this, just the latest information, right? So I get online and I type it in and just to see what comes up. Number 1, live updates, death toll in Lebanon from explosive pager attack on Hezbollah climbs to 12. But unfortunately, see, that's AP News. And I would rather not. I'd really rather not go to AP News. ABC News, no, especially after the whole debate thing. But they've done worse since the debate. And I got some news about ABC News, by the way. They're in trouble after that debate. But hey, we'll get to that. CBS News, no, God. So in other words, I'm going through all these news organizations and I'm realizing I've always been annoyed with these people, but at this point I really have just had it. I don't tune into any of the major news networks, but I get to see clips of them with the sites that I go to try to get news for you guys in the morning. And as I went through some of this, I see J.D. Vance on CNN arguing with the host, and she's really trying to give him a hard time, calling him, saying he's making racist statements and calling him a liar and basically a fool. And so, and that same woman did not treat Kamala Harris that way. And I have been for a very long time annoyed with CNN, but this has gotten to the point where I'm like, oh my God, really? You're getting it? I thought MSNBC was bad. CNN is trying to jump the shark on this one. Sorry. Having said that, I've realized I'd come across a story this morning about ABC News. David Murr, spelled M-U-I-R. David Murr, ABC News. That's the guy that you saw as the host of the debate. For this last debate between Trump and Harris, they had a male-female tag team. So it's basically, as a lot of you have said, 3 against 1. And you saw that, right? So the ratings for the news on ABC is in the toilet after that debate. I mean, absolutely just sunk into the toilet. I wonder how many people watched that. And I've got some of the details. We'll do this after news at the bottom of the hour here. But, yeah, I got some details on this. How many people just decided after watching the debate, that's just enough. And so they're not watching ABC News anymore. They just lost credibility, which is why sometimes I say it's a good thing that this happened. When something happens, sometimes it's good that it did. So Trump was just ganged on 3 against 1 during that debate. And, yeah, it was irritating for all of us to watch. Should have been. That's the bad news is Trump had to handle that. The good news is he handled it just fine. And actually, ratings or poll-wise, Trump did a little bit better than Harris. in the ratings after that. And I think mostly because he was treated unfairly. And they gave her softball questions and let her answer with meaningless word salads. But then also people started tuning out of ABC News after that, just saying, forget it, that's enough. And I'd like to see when all of this is over, what are the ratings for CNN and other news, even USA Today, and you just go through all the list here, because those people who don't normally pay attention are now paying attention, and it's really a wake-up call. Well, for that matter. Remember during COVID, how many parents had no idea what was happening in school with their kids, that their kids were being indoctrinated in public schools. Until the kids came home and started learning remotely, then the parents could see it. Well, the same thing is happening with the news now. A lot of people that had some kind of a trust in their favorite news organization are watching what's happening right now, as we have less than 50 days left to the election. And they're watching what the news media is doing, and they're waking up to it, which is a good thing. Dave and Burns, good morning, Glenn. For my news, I use Wake Up Wyoming. Oh, you see, you shouldn't do that. I'm an idiot, Dave. What are you doing? Coming up on local news, update on your weather forecast after that. Then I'll talk about ABC News and pick on them because, why the hell not? It's Wake Up Wyoming. Friday.
Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app from K2 Radio.
6:36 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. I-80 John saying, do you think Mossad doesn't have a Q branch? Think Bond. Oh, I'm sure they do have a Q branch. My question is, if you're just joining, we're talking about the pagers that went off and blew up, killing a bunch of Hezbollah. So, yeah, they got rid of their cell phones, got pagers, didn't know we still had pagers on planet Earth. And, they were blown up on a bunch of Hezbollah members, 12 dead, a whole bunch more injured, fingers lost, faces blown up, stuff like that. So, of course, they have a Q branch. I mean, obviously, I always knew they did, but who's the guy who thinks of these things? And then when they find out they're going to get a bunch of pagers, I mean, who? All right, so, hey, guys, let's do this real fast. And, boy, they got it done real fast. Let's see, a big wave in Casper. Glenn, now you've got me very worried. I just ordered several Sony Walkman and some VCRs for my grandkids for Christmas. Well, here's the deal. Are your kids little terrorists? If they are, then you got something to worry about. I'm just saying. It's all right. Let's talk ABC News real quick here. Story in front of me says, while Donald Trump won with the post-debate focus groups following the presidential debate on September 10th, the same cannot be said for his chief opponent, the moderator, David Muir. ABC News reader saw it was decided to it screwed his ratings on ABC News. Even his lefty viewers apparently thought that his performance and also the performance of his co-host. And hey, hang on. Somebody was asking me about this, and I have the answer here. Jim and Casper, haven't verified this yet, but saw a story. Female moderator was a sorority sister. Get a load of this. It says right here that the female moderator was Kamala Harris's sorority sister. Yeah, so here's a news organization saying it. It's not hard to see why 12% of his viewers said adios with World News Tonight. So the moment the debate was over, the ratings for World News Tonight dropped 12%. Fox News reports that of the 3 nights after the debate, the audience tumbled. Usually, ABC News gets 7.6 million viewers on an average to 6.7 viewers on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday episode of their news. But after the debate, though, imagine that dropping about 12%. Davis admitted that this was ABC's new strategy. He told the LA Times that the decision to attempt to correct the candidates was in response to the June 27th CNN debate when Trump and President Biden, whose poor performance led him to exit the race, said that people were concerned that stammering were allowed just to hang. In other words, they're not trying to help the guy. So they decided to go ahead and challenge and maybe even debate with the two candidates on stage, but they only did it with one. So, yeah, the ratings for ABC News, I didn't realize they even had like 6-point-something million viewers for ABC News. I thought it would have been lower than that, but that's the nightly news. So, yeah, about 12-point-some% down after that debate, and I think they deserve that and a whole lot more. Dave in Torrington, morning, Glenn. I think you need to start your own network, GNN, Glenn News Network. This is GNN. Yeah, see, but again, I'm not going to try to be credible. I don't. You see what I do for a living here? Well, who's going to take me as a credible news source here? No. Although, I tell you one thing that I would do differently, and I think this is something I desperately try to do. You hear my opinion as I sit here and talk on the air. What I try to do is talk about things that I know are truthful, but we don't necessarily want to hear, which is something that I think a lot of reporters, news anchors, or news readers, if you will, seem to have completely forgotten about. As they put the news together for you, they put together what they think you need to hear, not what the truth is. If the truth flies in the face of the narrative they want you to hear, then they're not going to report that to you. That happens a lot. It's not so much what is said during news coverage, it's what's deleted, what was left out, what they didn't want to talk about, or who they think they need to discredit, for that matter. Which is why a long time ago, all of the news networks, it's not just CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. I turned them all off. But even when it comes to the nightly news, which we used to all watch as kids, ABC, NBC, CBS, as far as I'm concerned, I can't find any credibility with them, so I just turned them off a long time ago. Which is why whenever I get here early in the morning and I start going through a list of what I'm going to talk to you guys about, I find it really hard to find good, credible news sources. A lot of what I read, I go through and edit myself, knowing that that's misinformation, that's just something gotten wrong, factually not correct. I've talked to you before about why I have a problem with most news reporters around the country. Usually they are naive, inept, lazy, and then beyond that, some bias too. 642, Wake Up Wyoming.
Local and mobile across Wyoming and beyond with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
648 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Look what the wind blew in, Frank Gambino.
It is windy out there.
It really is.
It was windy all night.
Yeah.
Holy Hannah.
Gives you an idea of the change of seasons out there. Huh?
Well, yeah. Kind of. You know something's coming.
Yeah, definitely. All right, now, I was busy this morning. I know that scares you.
I know.
Yes,
please, one step at a time. It's not even 7 a.m.
So we have a whole bunch of Wyoming myths. Some we created. There's the jackalope thing.
Yeah. We've been over that
stuff like that. Times. Yeah, okay, sure. And so always UFO sightings.
Yeah. We've been over that.
New ones was my point. Okay. So I created some new ones.
Okay.
Just 3. Harry Bob. Harry Bob is a guy who wandered off from Yellowstone as a tourist. You'll recognize him, kind of short, beer belly, balding hair, but a lot of hair on his chest and back. And you can hear his desperate cry in the middle of the night, "Hey, where you people at?" Okay, there's one, Harry Bob. Also, Wyoming's reverse UFO. This is a guy who's up in Gillette. And he has renounced his citizenship on Earth, which I'm with him on that. And he's building a UFO to get off the planet. So if you see him flying around.
Well, maybe he can be a dual citizen.
Yes, he's not trying to come to Earth. He's trying to leave Earth.
So what he should be thinking about the 2 people in space right now that can't come home.
Right, exactly. He would like to be one of them.
Yeah, okay.
So, okay. He also dresses in funny clothes he thinks are space alien clothes. Watch out. He will try to communicate with you by telepathy. So
Whoa.
Finally, my favorite one I came up with this morning is Wyoming's town of lost people. These are tourists who foolishly followed their GPS, and they all wound up in the same place way out in the middle of nothing.
And decided to make a city out of it.
They just built a town. Yeah. What the heck? They all hope to go home someday. In the meantime,
not anytime soon, by the way.
Yeah, there's somewhere out there. Nobody really knows where they are, but they exist somewhere.
And they don't even know where they are.
They have no clue. That's why they're still out there in this little town. The place is mythical until we actually find it.
Mythical now, and mystical.
I still have computer problems, so...
All righty, another round of 4A high school football coming up on Friday. The big game will have Sheridan hosting Cheyenne East. Both teams are 3-0, and Sheridan will be looking for their 35th consecutive win that would set the all-time Wyoming high school record. Another big game will have Campbell County traveling to Casper to meet Natrona. Campbell County is 3-0, and Natrona is 2-1. Kelly Walsh is 2-1. They'll be in Gillette to meet 0-3 Thunder Basin. 1-2 Laramie will be on the road to take on 1-2 Rock Springs, and Cheyenne South will take on Cheyenne Central, and a battle of 0-3 teams. Our latest Wyo Preps high school poll is out. Sheridan 1 in 4A, Cheyenne East 2, Campbell County 3, and Natrona 4, and Kelly Wallace 5. In 3A, Star Valley remains number 1, Cody remains number 2, followed by Riverton, Powell, and Buffalo. Bighorn still number 1 in 2A, followed by Mountain View, Lovell, Worland, and Cokeville. And 1A 9-man, Lingle still on top with Southeast 2nd, Pine Bluffs 3rd, Lusk 4th, and Saratoga 5th. And in 1A 6-man, Little Snake River ranked 1st, and Campman 2nd, Burlington 3rd, Riverside 4th, and Matiti 5th. In college football, the Wyoming Cowboys will be on the road this week at North Texas looking for their first win of the year. The Pokes are 0-3, and they've looked bad on both sides of the ball so far. And injuries have played a part of this. On offense, their two best guys really on offense, running back Harrison Whaley, has not played this season and won't play this week. This is a guy who rushed for 947 yards a year ago. John Michael Gillenborg could be and should be the team's best pass catcher, and he missed the first 2 games and played just 8 snaps in Saturday's loss to BYU. Devontae Harris on the defensive line is out with an injury, and all this stuff adds up. And this next man up deal is a good theory, but sometimes the ability level between the first string and the second string could be significant. Folks are 9-point underdogs in the game. That's a 5 p.m. start from Denton on Saturday. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. In the NFL, some former Wyoming Cowboys had good games last week. New Orleans defensive lineman Carl Granderson, 8 tackles and a sack in their 44-19 win over Dallas. Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen threw for 139 yards and a touchdown in their 31-10 win over Miami. Casper native and Cincinnati linebacker Logan Wilson had 12 tackles in the Bengals' 26-25 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. That's it in sports.
So I was over at the airport last weekend talking to some of the mechanics and pilots of those planes that go out and fight.
Oh, they're all, yeah, it's been continuous lately.
Oh, yeah. Since they're all from out of state, one of them turned to me and said, so I hear it gets really windy out here. And since some of them are listening this morning, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah. Today's a little taste of what we have.
They're just testing the wind machine. If you want to know where it comes from, you'll see these wind turbines all around Wyoming. Yeah. Okay. That's where we generate all of this.
Yeah. It comes right to Casper.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. I am going to spend a little bit of time next hour, right at the beginning of the hour. Speaking of those fires. And what else could possibly happen with them? There's a new element to Wyoming fires that you hadn't thought of, maybe. We'll talk about it next hour. Wake Up Wyoming. 7:06 at time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. It's a Wednesday, so over the hump we go. All right, I want to talk about some Wyoming fires out there because a really good story by Greg Johnson, Cowboy State Daily. Hadn't thought about this before. It's about Wyoming fires. Now, yesterday I was really pleased to see a lot of rain come down in certain areas, which I thought that's not going to completely put out those fires, but it's going to help a lot. There were just some heavy storms passing over the area. That was the good news. Bad news, though, today, just very much the next day, we have a lot of wind out there. So what fires are still burning, well, here comes all that wind, which the firefighters are not going to like. And I'm looking at some of the ones, especially, let me see, the fire that's sort of between, let's say, Douglas and Glendo up in that area. All right, about 40% contained. A lot of rain fell in that one yesterday. That's also sparked a fire called the 40 Mile incident, which is just started. And see, this is the Laramie Range. So one fire is on the east side of the Laramie Range. Your side is on the west side. And then, of course, some of the bigger fires, the House Draw fire, 100% contained anyway, and some of that rain must have helped yesterday. Also, 79% contained the Fish Creek fire, which is another big one. Gillette's got a lot of problems up there, but they at least got some rain that moved into the area, and those fires are mostly contained. So, but it's the wind today that's really going to cause a lot of problems. So I'm interested to see what happens after all that rain, and then the wind kicks in. So we'll see, and there's going to be some nasty wind today, but then temperatures drop. All right, the Short Draw fire is what it's called. 65 contained. But it's now igniting underground coal seams, according to Cowboy State Daily. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, there are times coal seams will ignite around Wyoming for various reasons. And they can just smolder for a good long time with not a whole lot people can do about it. Here's the story. Just as wildland firefighting crews have turned the corner on getting control of the stubborn Short Draw fire that started 30 miles north of Gillette and burned into Montana, Mother Nature thrown in another wrinkle, coal seams. The fire has burned about 35,000 acres in the northern Powder River Basin and also has ignited coal seam beneath the ground, according to the latest Montana Division of Natural Resources in their incident report. Here's a quote from this. Hang on a second here. As all of a sudden, everything is giving me a hard time. There we go. Scroll back down to it. Okay, so, quote, yesterday, a coal seam flared up and caused an increase in the total fire size by about 125 acres outside the containment area. Wow. I had not heard. See, Governor needs a couple of minutes, but I will have him on line 2 in about 2 minutes. Oh, okay, so Governor Gordon wants to call in? Okay, that works for me if the governor wants to call in about something. I hadn't thought about coal seams before. Oh, Miss Mary, if you would please, could you make sure when you talk to the governor, was it Grover? I'm sorry, Grover. I thought it said the governor. Grover needs a couple of minutes. Not the Grover Norquist, the guest. Oh, okay. Again, sometimes I get a little dyslexic and I glance up. Oh, the governor. No, Grover Norquist is going to come on the line. Okay. The guest. And then after that, I believe we have at 7:20, the Wyoming Secretary of State's going to come on because he wants to talk about that white powder that was left in his offices, which called the evacuation of the Herschler building. Meantime, Grover Norquist is coming on the phone with us today, somebody I've been following. Grover, I think I told you, followed your work for many, many years. Finally glad to get you on the radio with me on pretty much a regular basis. And I guess as we head into election time here, you have a lot to cover when it comes to taxes, since that's mainly what your think tank does.
Yeah, absolutely. Americans for Tax Reform asks all candidates to sign a pledge never to raise taxes. And the good news is that about 85% of Republicans make that commitment. 2/3 of governors, not the governor of Wyoming, but 2/3 of the Republican governors. And every Democrat is willing to raise taxes. So the two parties have really told you where they stand on the tax hike versus tax reduction.
Okay. And what I'm interested also in is not just a matter of who would raise taxes and who wouldn't, but who's going to get control of spending, because as far as I'm concerned, neither party is interested in controlling spending in either way. So even if they don't raise taxes, they're still going to continue borrowing.
two thoughts here. First is, step one to getting control of spending is to stop tax increases. As long as the politicians believe that a tax increase is possible, they will never reduce spending. When the Republicans said to Obama, you want to raise the debt ceiling, you want to increase taxes, and the answer is no. We want $2 trillion over the next 10 years in reducing spending from what your plans were, and not a penny for tax increase. And Obama spent a year arguing for a tax increase. Republicans took a year to convince him that they would never do a tax increase, and that's when we had the sequester, and they actually took the spending curve down by $2 trillion over a decade, $200 billion a year, which was important. But so step one is make it clear you're not raising taxes. Now we argue about spending. The other challenge you have, of course, is that most spending is on automatic pilot.
Right.
And you have to change the law to change many of the welfare programs and food stamps and others, which just are on automatic pilot, and you don't necessarily have to revote them each year. What does that take? Well, with the filibuster, it takes 60 votes. So unless you have 60 votes, you can't even begin to reform any of the entitlements. So, which is why you look at some of the guys in Congress and you go, come on, Gingrich or Boehner or Johnson, why can't you do X? And the answer is because they have a 4-vote margin or a 20-vote margin in the House, but only a 2, 3, 4, or 5-vote margin in the Senate, and you need 60 votes in the Senate to permanently reduce entitlement spending. So that's one real challenge.
Another one is, and I know you have an article about this, real quick, Kamala Harris's idea of a carbon tax.
Yes. Advocates of tax increases have paid the American people and the Taxpayer Protection Pledge a very real compliment. And the compliment is we can't raise taxes if we're obvious about it because the American people will punish us. They saw Walter Mondale announce when he ran against Reagan in 1984, I'm going to raise taxes, and he just got crushed. And every Democrat since then, Clinton, Biden, Obama, and now Harris, they all tell a lie, which is, I won't raise taxes on anyone who makes less than $150,000. Then it was $250,000. Now it's $400,000. Of course, that $400,000 is $330,000 because of inflation. So, but they try and tell most people we're not going to raise your taxes. Well, how do you get away with that? Well, if you say we're not going to tax you, we're going to tax carbon. Yeah. Most people go, well, I don't buy carbon at the store. That's not me. Yeah. No, that's anyone who uses energy or buys a product that has energy. If they have air conditioning in the factory, you're producing carbon dioxide. So they say, well, we should tax carbon. It's an environment thing. It's not a tax. Well, it's a tax on everyone. Then the other trick is, we're going to tax corporations. Well, what does that mean? Well, if you tax a corporation, 70% of what most corporations spend is on wages. Mm-hmm. Where do you think that money's coming from? It comes historically, if you look at countries across the globe, from lower wages for workers and higher prices for consumers. And if you do enough damage to a company and stock prices go down, then people who are retiring, people who are saving for their retirement, people who have a 401k or an IRA or a pension, they're damaged. So the corporate income tax, there's no Mr. General Motors who writes a check. There just isn't a Mr. General Motors. What happens is workers get hurt, consumers get hurt, and savers for their retirement get hurt. But a lot of Americans, and too many in the press, establishment press, say, well, that's not a tax on people. That's okay. It is a tax on people. And the good news for America is voters tend to get that, but the press never talks about it.
Of course not. No, but they're the experts, All right, Grover, where do people follow your work?
Our website is her.org. And Kamalanomics, that's like Bidenomics, but Kamalanomics.org has the list of all of the tax increases that Kamala Harris has endorsed. It has video. of her saying again and again how she's going to destroy fracking and tax energy and all these other things that she now denies, but they're all the videos. So KamalaNomics.org or ATR, Americans for Tax Reform, ATR.org, have all the material that we put out studying both the tax reductions that the Republicans have put forward and Kamala Harris's collection of tax hikes.
All right, Grover Norquist, thanks for coming on this morning. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Make your voice heard at 888-97-WOODS. This is AM 1030, K2 Radio.
The situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
7:23 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Down to Cheyenne we go to talk to our Wyoming Secretary of State, Chuck Gray. Chuck, it's bad enough when you can't answer your phone because you're getting nasty messages on your answering machine. Now you can't even go to your mailbox? What happened?
Well, the Wyoming Secretary of State's office received sort of a suspicious envelope with a white powder on Monday. We went through our protocols, which we've been trained to do, and the entire East Hirschler building, which is where our main office is, ended up being evacuated as they tested the materials. There were a couple other states that also received similar messages, Nebraska and Iowa. Ultimately, the test came back negative. That's kind of what happened here the last 48 hours.
Okay, so the other two states, did they have anything that came with the package that maybe you did? I mean, was there a threatening note with it? Was it anything that somebody was trying to send you a message with?
There's apparently, and we're still trying to understand exactly what happened in the other states. Law enforcement is looking at it. The FBI came in, Highway Patrol, Cheyenne Police and Fire, and ultimately they brought in the Homeland Security sort of suspicious substance team. That's ultimately who helped take the sample. It looks like those other states had sort of a pre-screening process that caught some of that early on, and we're trying to learn a little bit from that. I think that there's some work that we can do in state government to improve our mail processing in terms of a time perspective, but also some safety some safety precautions that maybe isn't instituting as much here.
Okay, good. The one thing I hadn't heard with any of these incidences was a note or something saying what this was all about. It was just a powder or something suspicious in a package, but nobody actually saying to you what this was supposed to be about.
My understanding is there was a note, and I was actually testifying at a committee. I came back immediately. It was over in Laramie. Got the indication right before we were about to go on. We headed out of that meeting. I came back to Cheyenne, and my understanding is there is a note that law enforcement took when they came in to get the suspicious substance. Okay.
So does this have anything to do with the weird message left on your machine a while ago? I don't expect it to be the same guy, but still, does it look like it's the same issue about voter integrity?
I don't know. I think that, these things are concerning, and where we're at right now, we just need to take it seriously. We are, but we're going to move forward as well, and that's very important. I mean, we had normal operations yesterday. We're intent on overseeing this election process. Obviously, we're very close to the start of early voting. That'll start in the second week of October there, and we're getting closer and closer to that general election. Wrapped up the primary election. I think it went pretty well. Also looking forward to the 2025 session here, where we can look at the election code, Title 22, and continue to improve it, and that'll be in early 2025. But we're going to continue to work hard. We wanted to be fully transparent. I mean, basically in the front lawn of the Capitol, there were hundreds of people because the whole East building was evacuated. So we wanted to be fully transparent on why that was happening. So we released a statement on it, and have been updating as we've gotten new developments, especially when we got that negative test here Monday at about 11 p.m. because they ran that over to the lab and ran their negative test.
Right.
So they tested for the 5 or 6 things that
could possibly be. It was entertaining to see some pictures of some employees within the Hersler building out there on the lawn just deciding to lay back in the grass and catch a little sun while they waited. So at least there wasn't any panic in the building. People just decided to take their time and relax until they were able to go back to work today, which I suppose everybody is, as you said. So is there anything in the upcoming election that you're working on now as far as election integrity? Because for a while there you had quite a few irons in the fire.
One of the big things I wanted to talk about, this is Only Citizen Vote Week. Yesterday, actually, was National Constitution Day. I was in Rock Springs. One of the things our office does is publish the Wyoming State Constitution. And every year, there's a group, Moms for Liberty, out in Sweetwater County, which distributes those state constitutions to 8th graders, every single 8th grader in Sweetwater County, and they've been expanding across Southwest Wyoming, and hopefully that's a program we can get across Wyoming. So I was out in Sweetwater County. We had 6 presentations yesterday in schools in Rock Springs and Green River. And as part of National Constitution Week, there is now sort of an effort. This is a very important issue. Only U.S. citizens should be voting in elections. And there is this concern that is very valid because there's evidence that U.S. federal agencies are distributing registration forms to illegal aliens. And obviously that rule we did last year, which was an attempt to have proof of residency for registering to vote, and also it prevented illegal aliens from voting. It made clear in our rules that non-resident designations on licenses are not eligible for voting, for registering to vote. We kind of saw this coming. Unfortunately, the governor vetoed our rule. Okay. And now at the federal level, literally the Friday he vetoed our rule, President Trump was announcing with Speaker Johnson that they're going to try to pass the SAVE Act, which provides for proof of citizenship for registering to vote. So
Friday. He's talking to himself in a padded room, and you could be the voice in his head. Join the conversation on Wake Up Wyoming, 866-97-WOODS.
Wake Up Wyoming, it's a Wednesday. So you're familiar with, most of you, if you're from Wyoming anyway, have never heard the talk show host Howard Stern, in which case I have seen a little bit. Back when he was doing the television show version of his radio show, I saw a little bit of that. And I have heard little bits and pieces of his radio show. Never liked it myself, but I can't deny the guy's success. People seem to love him. He's a shock jock, of course. Did see his movie Private Parts, which actually I thought was good, but being a radio guy, it was about his radio career, which is why I thought it was fun. But Stern himself, I never really had any need for the whole shock jock genre. Never did like it. All right. Howard Stern, shock jock, says he hates anyone who votes for Trump. He says they are stupid and I have no respect for them. He agrees with people comparing Trump to Adolf Hitler. Okay, now before I go on, show of hands, anybody out there care what Howard Stern has to say? Looking, don't see any hands. Okay, so we got that. All right. Now, he's on Sirius XM radio, and the reason that he's on Sirius XM radio is because he was a syndicated radio host, which means stations all over the country was picking up out of New York and was picked up by a bunch of radio stations. But now, this comes down to community standards. This is how this works. The FCC won't do anything about a radio host until someone complains. Don't get any ideas. I'm not going anywhere. When someone complains, then the FCC will go ahead and take a look at it. And they won't fine the network because it's community standards. Where Stern was doing his radio show from, nobody was complaining, so they're not going to go after that. But in some small towns in America that try to carry Howard Stern, there were complaints. And so those local radio stations were fined heavily by the FCC. That's how they do this. So Howard Stern said, screw it, and he went to satellite radio, where he can say whatever he wants. So discussing Trump, quote, I hate Taylor Swift. He posted Truth Social over the weekend. This whole idea that if you like me, you are good. If you don't, you're bad. He said, I've been a victim to this. He said, I don't agree with Trump politically. I don't think he should be anywhere near the White House. I don't hate the guy. I hate the people who vote for him. I think they're stupid, to be honest with you. I have no respect for them, he said. He said that on the Howard Stern show. Okay, so just again, show of hands. Anybody care what Howard Stern has to say? Okay. For that matter, anybody care what Taylor Swift had to say? No, in fact, a story I covered yesterday was when Taylor Swift said she endorses Kamala Harris, actually that caused more people to want to vote for Trump. Yes, she did convince some people, you should vote for Harris, that really like Taylor Swift, but more people were pushed toward Trump because of her opinion. So they don't really care what Taylor Swift has to say, or what she has to say is sort of a turn off. Now, having said that, I got to admit, Taylor Swift is a very talented woman. I mean, she is extraordinarily talented. And I give her loads of credit, not just for her abilities as a singer and dancer and her acting abilities, but also as a businesswoman. She's extraordinarily good at everything that she has to do. But when it comes to her opinions on who she's going to vote for, I don't care. Like with so many other celebrities out there, I really don't care. But okay. Radio shock jock Howard Stern says he doesn't mind. He says, half my listeners who disagree with his political views, he expects to get hate mail from those people who are Trump supporters. And he said, I don't care. So, okay, he's entitled to his opinion. My only thought was the whole idea that, well, I just think you're stupid if you're voting for it. Well, you know, just to be fair about it, there are people who think anyone who votes for Kamala Harris is stupid. Just to toss that out there. So, but don't compare the guy to Hitler. That's the other thing that Stern said, which I really don't. You don't like Trump, you don't want to vote for him, okay. But enough with the whole Nazi Hitler thing. I mean, just absolutely enough of that. I look at Kamala Harris and I call her stupid. And I really do think that she is very naive and stupid and corrupt and so on. So I do have some nasty things to say about these people. But my point with all of this is don't, and I don't think you folks do that listen to this program, base your opinion on what these celebrities have to say. You base your opinion on who you're going to vote for on your own standards, and you don't listen to anybody else. You make up your mind based on what you think you are discerning about the truth and about what's best for this country. And you don't listen to what anyone else has to say. Not Howard Stern, not Leonardo DiCaprio, who cares what he has to say. Any other celebrity that might be out there. Taylor Swift, doesn't matter. 742, wake up.
You asked for it. We didn't have the budget for that. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. and 24/7 on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
7:45 is the time. Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Wansel from Day Weather. So, Don, first off, I was happy to see some good rain coming yesterday. That was especially because it hit some areas that really needed it. Wait a second here. Let me see if I, and encrypted. So I got him up there. Are you there? Are you there now?
Am I here?
Yes,
I think I'm somewhere.
There. I think you are somewhere. Okay. Great rain yesterday. Hit some important fire areas.
Yeah, and that was spelled good news. Some areas, unfortunately, did not get needed rain, but other areas did. Of course, that's the nature of our convective activity. A lot of that has spread now into Montana, and the cold front has stretched into the eastern Dakotas, eastern Nebraska, and eastern Kansas. That's where the activity is right now and should stay today. Northern areas of the state will get some wraparound moisture, talking areas of north of I-90, the Bighorn Basin, and also the mountains and foothills and valleys of western Wyoming as well.
Okay. Now, that moves out, and then the bad news for the firefighters is here comes that wind.
Yeah, and it's already gotten going over many areas of the state. It doesn't bode well for those firefighting efforts. Areas of I-25, I-90 are already under some type of wind closures, especially I-90 Gillette into Sundance and the Black Hills. I-25 around Douglas to Casper has some wind closures, but also around Wheatland and Glendo, strong winds as well. And they're probably going to stay pretty elevated. They'll peak around midday, early afternoon, then slowly subside by late day.
Okay, that's good to hear. Now, after that, I'm enjoying the fall-ish kind of temperatures. Does it get a bit cooler after this?
It will get cooler. We do see a small rebound in those readings Thursday and Friday in between systems. Then our next trough that's over the West Coast is going to come in, could start as early as late Friday night in the far south, but then more so into Saturday and early Sunday in the southeast area of the state. In fact, portions of southern I-25, I-80 could be in line for some steady rains as that system makes its way through eastward over the weekend.
Does that next trough come with more rain or wind?
It doesn't look like there'll be as much wind with this system. It is not going to be quite as organized, but there is a deep and moist air mass with it. So it's something we're going to watch and kind of pinpoint over the next 24 to 36 hours on who's going to stand the best rain chances.
All right. Thank you, Don Wansel. Don Wansel there with day weather. Off I go to Frank Gambino, who's sitting over there in the ice box. Okay, Frank, the guy is back. I know people are already starting to decorate up and get ready for Halloween, I know, because fall officially hits this weekend, right?
Pretty much,
yeah. Pretty much, yeah. There's a guy who comes around every so often with his pickup truck, and I really like this. So let's say you pull up behind this guy at a traffic light, and you're sitting behind a pickup truck. Mm-hmm. Sitting on the tailgate is up.
Yep.
Sitting there is a skeleton, small size, not full size, right? And there's a sign, and the skeleton is just sort of sitting there smiling at you. Next, it says, honk for a treat. That's a sign he has on the tailgate.
Oh.
And so you honk the horn, and the skeleton pees on your windshield.
What kind of treat is that?
I don't know. Well, it makes you laugh,
and
doesn't it?
And how far he's got to pee?
Yeah, well, yes, that's pretty good. The fact that it can make it from the tailgate of the truck all the way to your windshield means this guy, first off, he had to think of it. Right?
Yes.
Then he had to go buy the skeleton, and he had to think about how to install a pump. This guy's inventive.
He had to buy the pee, too?
He had to. Well, the pee is not actual pee. It's just water.
Oh.
Okay. So you wanted real urine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then that happens to him. Then the guy who is being peed on rear ends the skeleton with his car, and that's the end of the skeleton.
No, yeah, but then there's a fist fight at the traffic light.
Yeah.
Okay.
Over that.
So Frank needs more entertainment is what we're saying basically.
Well, not that kind of entertainment.
But still, though, you think about the effort this guy put into this whole thing. He had to think of it, then he had to invent it, and then install it all on his truck and make sure it actually worked. The whole time, he would have been just laughing hysterically as he did this. And then he pulls up to his first traffic light, and he's just sitting there, He's coming up to a traffic light going, come on, turn red, turn red, turn red. The light turns red, and he goes, oh, yes, it turned red. Now he's sitting there thinking, come on, honk your horn, honk your horn. Because the guy behind him has to honk the horn in order for him to use it. It says honk for a treat. So there's a lot of work, preparation, and anxiety went into this.
I call it redneck engineering.
It is, yes. And it's some of the most brilliant stuff ever. And humor, too, redneck humor.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll give him credit for that.
That goes back to, once again, everybody makes fun of rednecks until you need something fixed.
Yes, and then they save the day. Yes.
Yeah, go with sports.
All right, another round of 4A high school football on Friday. The big game will have Sheridan hosting Cheyenne East. Both teams are 3-0. Sheridan looking for their 35th straight win that would set the all-time Wyoming high school record. Another big game in Casper on Friday. Campbell County will meet Natrona. Campbell County is 3-0 and Natrona 2-1. Casper Kelly Walsh at 2-1 will be in Gillette to meet 0-3 Thunder Basin. 1-2 Laramie on the road to be 1-2 Two Rock Springs, and Cheyenne South tangles with Cheyenne Central in a battle of 0-3 teams. Our latest Wyo Preps high school football poll is out. Sheridan rated number 1 in 4A again, Cheyenne East 2, Campbell County 3, and Natrona 4, and Kelly Walls 5. In 3A, Star Valley remains number 1, Cody 2, followed by Riverton, Powell, and Buffalo. Bighorn still number 1 in 2A, followed by Mountain View, Lovell, Worland, and Cokeville. And in 1A 9-man, Lingle is on top with Southeast 2nd, Pine Bluffs 3rd, Lusk 4th, and Saratoga 5th. And in 1A 6-man, Little Snake River remaining number 1, Encampment 2, Burlington 3, Riverside 4, and Batiti 5. In college football, the Wyoming Cowboys will be on the road this week at North Texas looking for their first win of the year. The Pokes are 0-3 so far this season. They've looked awful on both sides of the ball at times, and injuries have been a part of this. On offense, their two best guys really are out. Running back Harrison Whaley has not played this season and will not this week as a guy who rushed for 947 yards a year ago. John Michael Gillenborg could be and should be the team's best pass catcher, and he's missed the first 2 games and played in just 8 snaps in Saturday's loss to BYU. Devontae Harris on the defensive line out with an injury, and all this stuff adds up. And this next man-up deal is a good theory, but sometimes the ability level between the first string and the second string can be significant. Folks are 9-point underdogs, and that's a 5 p.m. start from Denton on Saturday. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. In the NFL, some former Wyoming Cowboys had some good games last week. New Orleans defensive lineman Carl Granderson with 8 tackles and a sack in their 44-19 win over Dallas. Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen threw for 139 yards and a touchdown in their win over Miami 31-10. Casper native and Cincinnati linebacker Logan Wilson with a dozen tackles in the Bengals 26-25 loss to the Kansas City Chiefs. That's it in sports.
Now, I don't care that I already see people, not just around town, but at stores and restaurants putting up Halloween stuff, because again, this weekend
Christmas is our stuff. As I
see my Lord, yeah. I promise, though, I decorate the hallways back
Yes, and I like that. I think it's a good touch around here.
Every year I add something new. There's 2 or 3 new items in it. That's why it keeps growing. So that won't happen until 2 weeks from now, Tuesday the 1st, which is, of course, the beginning of October. Mm-hmm. And as you know, it stays up through the 31st. So you got a month of this stuff that you put up with. And then as soon as we hit the next month, immediately when October is over and it's the 1st of the next month,
it comes down.
It's down. You show up the next day, it's gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stay away from the Beetlejuice stuff. It's all over the place.
You can't stand the Beetlejuice.
Well, I don't mind it, but is it Halloween?
Well, it is
kind of
horror spooky stuff anyway. Yeah. Not Halloween, but it is horror spooky stuff anyway. Yeah. So, but yeah, look for new items. I give you new items every single year when I decorate the hallway.
That's what I'm looking for.
All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we have to take care. Sorry about some of the glitches this morning. You may not have noticed, but it bothers me. There's just a computer issue here that I'm wrestling with, but I'm working around it, getting this show done for you. Local news, national news, weather forecast, not in that order, coming your way. Open phones after that. Wake Up Wyoming. 8:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Wednesday, and over the hump we go. And it's open phones. 888-97 what's the phone number? 888-97-WOODS. If you're wondering why I don't play the normal things right now, yesterday there was a computer issue in the studio, which is still going on. And so a lot of the fun stuff that I play for you guys is just, I'm not able to get to it right now until that problem gets fixed. But I got most everything else. I tell you one thing else that it does kind of mess me up on is, in order to play certain features, people, even, day weather when they come on and go to the Frank Gambino, I still have to connect by pushing some buttons here, but now it's different buttons. And it's kind of thrown me off this morning, because every morning I'm used to doing this pretty much blindfolded. I could do it, but now I can still do it all, just the buttons are all in different places to get to. Okay. It's driving me a little nuts, but I'll make it. 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about, change the subject, fine by me. Then there's all the people who are texting me using the Wake Up Wyoming app. Just hit the chat option on the app and send me a text message. All right, now, I just heard news top of the hour that once again, your federal government is close to running out of money. And they want to pass a continuing resolution, another one. How many have there been? I lost track. Before they go on vacation in October, because they all got to campaign, a bunch of them have to campaign anyway, to get reelected. But they can't do that, or they don't want to do that without a continuing resolution, or while they're gone, the government will shut down. Which, as we know, is not a total shutdown. It's a partial shutdown. Not much happens. Despite media hype, I watched some news anchor a few years ago when we had a government shutdown. She looked at the camera with really great concern and said, "Your government is shut down." Well, very little of the government actually gets shut down, and nothing bad happened while it was. So it's not a big deal. But anyway, here's what stuck out. The Republicans don't want to sign a continuing resolution until a voter ID act is attached to it that says anywhere in the country, anyone who's registering to vote has to have proof of citizenship. And, of course, the Democrats don't want to do that. Now, the Democrats will offer all sorts of excuses, but you know the real reason why. They would like illegals to be able to vote. In fact, in many states, if you go get a driver's license, you're automatically registered to vote. That happens in many states. So that means an illegal would already be ready because they can get a driver's license in some of these same states. There's this one. Let's go to Arizona. Arizona admits that nearly 100,000 non-citizens voters were wrongly listed on the rolls. This is a lawsuit that brought all this out. The story says Arizona officials admitted to finding nearly 100,000 voters who had not provided proof of U.S. citizenship but still had full voting privileges as the state is facing a lawsuit for not removing non-citizens from the voter rolls. Close to 100,000 voters are incorrectly registered in Arizona as proving their U.S. citizenship. They haven't even done it with a green card. Well, if they have a green card, they're not a citizen. But all right. So the 20-year-old error that was discovered as the state is being sued for not searching for and removing non-citizens from its registration list. Arizona's Secretary of State explained Tuesday that there was an error in the state system that labeled roughly 97,000 voters as providing documents of proof of U.S. citizenship, but they had not. And then there's the motor voter crash. The Motor Vehicles Division provides the state voter registration system with driver's licenses and information. And the error occurred in that process, affecting voters who had first obtained an Arizona driver's license before October of 1996 and were issued duplicate replacements before registering to vote in 2004. The error was discovered in Maricopa County. Workers found a registered voter who hadn't provided proof of U.S. citizenship but was listed as a voter who's cast ballots in both federal and state elections. The voter had a green card but never cast a ballot, which is the good thing. They're not a citizen, so they can't cast a ballot. The error has occurred for about 20 years over 4 administrations, they notice. Counties are scheduled to send out military and overseas ballots on Thursday, tomorrow. So the Arizona governor, a Democrat, explained Tuesday that the state's Access Voter Information Database it started with a query, duplicate, it gets into driver's licenses and things like that. You get basically the idea of what's going on here. And so here, once again, let's get back to the proof of citizenship that's going on the federal level. And that proof of citizenship is something the Republicans want before they vote on a continuing resolution, and the Democrats don't want it. Now, again, this all comes up to a head before we get to October. Now, it's going to be really entertaining to find out what the Democrats say about this as to why they don't think anyone should have to be a citizen to vote or why they don't want this. They'll probably try to make it sound racist or whatever. You know how this works. You know how this goes. So they'll probably try to pull that again. Now, in the meantime, I had just got off the phone last hour with our Wyoming Secretary of State, Chuck Gray, about some other issues as well. But he's also worried about getting that act passed through and making sure here in the state of Wyoming someone has to be a citizen, and for that matter, a resident of the state of Wyoming in order to vote. That way, only those people who are qualified to vote can vote. And by qualified, a big part of that is not just old enough. You can't be a felon, the reason why, and I know a lot of Democrats would like felons to vote. They've tried to pass that before, but the answer is if you've committed a harsh enough crime, you've lost a lot of privileges as a citizen, and that includes your privilege to vote. So don't do those things because we will take privileges. Some of those privileges is the right to walk around in public as a free person. That's why we put you in jail. Other things are, and you're not allowed to vote. You're not allowed to carry a weapon. You've lost the privileges because you were a bad person. So they can't vote. And again, Democrats would like them to vote. They keep pushing for it. And then the idea of non-citizens. There are states and cities, especially cities around America, where people who have been living in the country illegally but have been there for a while are supposed to be allowed to vote in local elections. They're not supposed to be able to vote in the federal elections. But I keep making the argument, well, who's going to stop them if they're handed a ballot? I mean, honestly, who's going to stop them? So we'll see. As Republicans try to get this put into the continuing resolution, you know, the Democrats are not going to want to allow it. So this could get really interesting as we get near the end of this month and into October, because they want to pass this continuing spending resolution so they can go home and campaign so you will vote for them again. 8:15, Wake Up Wyoming.
Sure, this show is sustainable. We sequester all gas emissions to one room. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, live on AM 1030 and FM 95.1, weekdays at 6.
Coming up at 8:20, it's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. See Rick and Cheyenne. Funny, Rick. Very fun. I was saying that I was having some computer problems. A lot of the fun stuff I like to play on this program. I can't because one of the computers giving us trouble today. And so it's been, and I have to push different buttons to get things done, which means every so often I stop and go, wait, not this, but that today, because it's not in the same order that it usually is. It's driving me nuts. Rick and Cheyenne says, driving you nuts. Huh? Short trips are fun. Well, thank you, Rick. I do appreciate it. 888-97 was the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject. Fine. And I'll just roll with it. So, okay. Let's go to California real quick. And one time I'd really love to play one of my California intro songs. But all right. California gas stoves to come with health warning labels. The story says, you may recall over a period of time, over the past couple of years, when the left was waging war on all manners of appliances that supposedly adding to the ongoing climate crisis because they consume natural gas or other organic fuels in they say, an inefficient way. But actually, a natural gas stove is much more efficient than an electric stove. But moving on. Chief among these targets of opportunity were gas stoves, particularly in California and New York. And so great was the threat posed by these appliances that liberal lawmakers were seeking to ban them if they could. I still love Ocasio-Cortez talking about the horrors of gas stove as she was doing a video cast from her apartment in New York. And behind her, she was in her kitchen, was a gas stove. And when people pointed that out and called her a hypocrite, she said, it comes with the apartment. I have no choice, period. Well, you can always go ahead and buy an electric burner and plug it in, period. Anyway, so here's the latest here. Story says the next time you shop for a cooking stove, gas versions might show a health warning label similar to those on tobacco products. And because the stove's blue flame causes air pollution and puts it into your kitchen, California lawmakers have passed a bill that would require warning labels on gas stoves for sale in stores and online. Governor Gavin Newsom has until the end of September to bring the bill into law. The legislation comes after a series of lawsuits filed against stove manufacturers claiming they should have warned customers about potential health risk. Environmental activists are encouraging people to switch to electric stoves as part of a broader campaign to cut climate pollution from buildings. And now there's an effort to put health warnings on. Now, one of the things that this reminds me of a lot of things, but one of the things it reminded me of, just recently I bought a plane ticket to go visit my family in Florida. Trust me, this relates. And so when I went to buy the plane tickets, I usually go the week after Thanksgiving, because plane ticket prices are just stupid low. I mean, really low. One year I got to go round trip. I left Casper, Wyoming, and flew to Denver and then to Tampa, where my family picked me up. And then I flew back. So round trip, $377. It was a little more this year, but still just stupid low prices because it's the week after Thanksgiving. And my family has no problem with me visiting between holidays. It works for everybody. It's just fine. So I buy the tickets, and I notice it probably was there last year or maybe even the year before. I don't know. But as I buy the tickets, there's a little something that I can click on. I'm doing this all online, of course. If I want to see what flying that route, round trip, what my carbon footprint is going to be. And my thought was, I didn't click on it, but my thought was, I hope it's huge. As I told you before, CO2 is a good thing, not a bad thing, and I've explained why. I thought, I hope it's huge. I can click on that and get a carbon footprint. Wow. And if it isn't big enough, maybe I can make the trip longer. Yeah, I look at the carbon footprint and go, that's all I'm doing? Maybe if I can go on a longer trip to get there and fly more, then I'll increase my carbon footprint, doing more good for the planet. Now, at another time, I was at a place where a car was on display. Actually, it was a pickup truck. It was not some of the big monster pickup trucks that a lot of you folks in Wyoming drive. This was it wasn't a tiny pickup truck, not like a Toyota. Somewhere in the middle. And I had not heard of this particular model of pickup truck before. So I walked up, and I'm looking at some of the features and so on, going, hey, it's nice. It's a nice truck. I can see it. And as I'm reading the sticker on the side of the truck, looking at the features that it has, as always, some things, well, I don't need this, I don't care about that. But that I like. It could use this maybe. And then I get to the bottom of it, and it has a score. On a scale of 1 to 10, how does this pickup truck do for the environment? You know, CO2 output, stuff like that. And I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking, oh, wow, all of a sudden I like this truck because it almost scores a 10, which is bad. It was really bad. I'm looking at this thinking, I might consider buying this truck if it's just going to be that bad. But I didn't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, is it that 10 is bad or I think 1 is good, or maybe that's backwards. But the idea was it was bad. I mean, this pickup truck, they say, is not good for the environment because of the enormous amount of CO2 it puts out. God knows what else. In which case, I'm thinking that's what I would like to buy then. Thank you very much. In fact, I would go looking for a high score. I want a high score. I like high scoring. I want a high score of this puppy. In fact, when I take this, after I buy the truck, which I'm not going to buy the truck, but if I were to buy the truck and I were to rip that sticker off, when you're done, you own the thing, you can go ahead and take that off. I might leave that part on the windshield just to brag. Maybe I'll get a special bumper sticker just to brag. Who knows? Why not? Now, there's many years ago, I used to, when I was living in Florida, working out of Tampa, besides doing talk radio, on the weekends, I toured on the stand-up comedy circuit there. And there was a guy that I was traveling with who had, for a while, had a great joke. Because while he was on stage, he would be smoking cigarettes. That was back when you could. Okay, it was not a no smoking room. And he would say he found a clever way around the warning labels on cigarettes. He would just look for the warning label that doesn't apply to him. So, for example, if the warning label said that it might be bad for you, your fetus, if you're pregnant, well, he's a guy. He can't get pregnant. So he can go ahead and smoke that pack of cigarettes. You know what I mean? If it did apply to him in some way, he wouldn't buy them. But he would look for the warning labels that did not apply to him and decide, okay, I'll go ahead and buy this pack of cigarettes because the warning label on it does not apply to me. Sometimes warning labels make me want to buy things rather than discouraging me from buying things. Sometimes it's a challenge too. It's a dare. I dare you. So yeah, here you are buying, let's say, a gas stove in California, which they would love to ban altogether, and they're going to try to still. And it says there's a warning label on it, may be hazardous to your health. See, I would look at that as a challenge. And it might even give you your footprint to tell you how bad you're hurting the environment because of that gas stove. And I look at that again as a challenge. And it tells me that I should be buying this gas stove. And I should buy that pickup truck with the horrible environmental footprint. And by the way, I need to get a nice big fat cigar today. But not the one with the warning label that it would be bad for me, but the one that has nothing to do with me. Then I'll go ahead and buy that big fat cigar and smoke it. I think that's the way I'll roll from now on. Right? Coming up on some local news that we have to take care of, and we're going to get into the weather forecast after that. Nice long segment of open phones. Right after we're done with news and weather. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. And, of course, you can talk about what I'm talking about, change the subject. That's just fine. I'll roll with the whole thing. Let's wake up Wyoming.
Friday, covering world-ending catastrophes for years to come. It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Find content, chat live, and listen on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
8:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming back here in the state of Wyoming. So I think he's sporting his beard again. I'll have to ask him. Here's a picture of our Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon, and he's grown a beard again. A while back, he grew a beard, and I teased him about it, but, you know, he looks pretty good with it. And then suddenly he cut it all off. And it had something to do with his wife saying, okay, time to cut it off. Yeah, that's not exactly the whole story, but anyway. And now he's growing it back again. So I guess maybe it's a seasonal thing. I'll have to ask him about that. Wintertime, you grow a beard? Anyway, Governor Mark Gordon he says, Wyoming can make carbon capture work if the feds get out of the way. Okay, here's the story. Cowboy State Daily. Campbell County Commissioner Jim Ford believes capturing and storing carbon dioxide emissions could be commercially applied in just a few years if politicians would get out of the way and let the industry do it. See, I'm against doing it at all, but I'll get into that. Quote, if they just step up to engineering and the operational folks, it can be ready in a couple of years. You start getting the politicians involved, it takes longer. Ford is also the operation manager at the Integrated Test Center in Gillette, which Ford describes as the best location in America for testing large-scale carbon capture usage. The winner of the first Carbon X Prize tested and demonstrated. And this is where they had a prize for people who found good uses for CO2, which, of course, we already do. We use CO2 for so many. We don't need government getting involved in that. The private sector uses CO2 for so many different things. We didn't need a contest to find out good uses for it. But all right, carbon capture and utilization facility based in electric cooperative coal-fired power plant allows carbon capture technology developers to access scrubbed flue gas that would otherwise have been released from the coal plant. The state spent $15 million. Let me correct that. The state wasted $15 million to build and begin an operational facility in 2014, which can get up to 25 megawatts worth of CO2 emissions from Dry Fork. My answer is still let it into the atmosphere. It's good for the atmosphere. It's greening the earth. But okay. On Tuesday afternoon, the story says, Ford gave a tour organized by Governor Mark Gordon's office to showcase the projects that are underway at the facility. The massive facility is seen as one of the world's most technologically advanced carbon capture and sequestration, massive carbon storage tanks, pipes, and so on outside of the coal plant. And so the story says there is perception among some in Wyoming that making carbon capture commercially viable is unattainable or unrealistic. I still fall into that camp, but okay. Others lump it in with alternative energies like wind and solar, while others maintain it's anti-coal. I just think it's a waste. Ford said one of these conclusions hit the mark that carbon capture is just another irritation of coal production becoming cleaner and more efficient. Oh, again, don't treat CO2 as if it's a pollutant. It's making the earth greener. It's good for the planet. All right, reading on. Quote, there are decision makers that are still require abundant, affordable energy. They prefer it's cleaner. We're just one half of the market equation of demand supply. There's demand for it, so we supply it. Gordon said, weaving through the federal bureaucracy on carbon capture is no easy task, especially when trying to navigate the mixed messages coming from President Joe Biden's administration and Environmental Protection Agency. Gordon said the regulations being put out into place at the federal level on coal and carbon emissions would correspondingly inhibit the development of carbon capture technology into the future. On one hand, the EPA has generally supported carbon capture projects. On the other hand, Biden administration has been very anti-coal. Here's my thought on this. The Biden administration, in fact, Biden himself, when he was running for office, the president first time around here, Biden himself said he wants an end to coal. He wants it done. He wants it over. He wants to stop coal. Well, okay, so trying to appease that, and this is where Governor Gordon and I had a discussion about this on air. He disagrees with me when I say this is appeasement. Trying to capture CO2 and store it is an attempt to keep coal plants open. If we can capture the CO2 and store it, not let it into the atmosphere, then you'll let us continue to burn coal, right? See, that's some kind of an appeasement. It's very expensive, too. And the governor says it's not, but I disagree. I think it is. Gordon said regulations being put into place by a federal level on coal and carbon emissions will correspondingly inhibit the development of carbon capture technology. Well, good. Let's just end it. On one hand, the EPA has generally supported carbon capture projects, but on the other hand, again, Biden administration has been very anti-coal, passing a rule earlier this year that would end coal production in the Powder River Basin by 2041, Gordon said. He said, in my mind, they intentionally create the gap. And they do. They're trying to shut down coal. Gordon said that's one of the main reasons why the state of Wyoming is fighting the rule in court to extend the Powder River deadline. Quote, if your goal is to reduce CO2, give us a chance to do it. And again, my answer is don't even try it. Fight it on a different level. Really, fight the whole thing on a completely different level. Quit giving into this false idea that this is a pollutant that we have to get rid of and start actually fighting it on the science of what CO2 is. University of Wyoming, the story says, School of Energy Resources is the integrated test center for the administration. The executive director of the school said the Dry Fork plant is an example of what coal plants can look like in the future. And again, I hope not. Chet and Yoder, how much money does he get for it, or is okay? She mentions testing is about to be performed at the company called the Membrane Technology Research. That's only one level testing for designing a full-scale commercial system. Okay, and then it continues on. Why do it? Dry Fork Station is one of the newest plants in the country, which means it has some of the latest technologies. It also has strategically located coal-rich powder. They pull the coal right out of the ground and go right into the burner with it. So Wyoming, which is very supportive of the plant's involvement in CO2 research and development technologies, Wyoming coal production and employment has been slow and steady decline since 2009. So what it is an attempt to keep coal power plants going by promising that we will go ahead and capture CO2. And my answer to that is the left doesn't care. They don't care. They don't. They want to keep it all in the ground. That's not my words. That's their words. They want to keep it all in the ground. It's bad. You can capture every bit of CO2. They don't care. They want it kept in the ground. So you're going to have to fight this on a different level. So quit the false idea that CO2 is a pollutant and start working on it from a more scientific level, and don't let them shut down our coal power plants at all. I mean, honestly, there's a whole the way we're fighting this currently just digs us into a deeper hole. Partly, I mean, and I think is a big part of it, by giving in to their false premise that we need to treat this as a dangerous pollutant when it's not. You start giving in to that false premise, you're losing the battle. You're losing the fight every step of the way. So, yeah, we have to fight this on a whole new level if we're going to win this thing. And we can win this on many different levels. One of the ways we can win this is to show that we do need reliable and affordable energy in America. And that reliable and affordable energy is not, and also energy that's good for the environment, not bad. And that energy is not going to be wind and solar. It's not clean, it's not green, it's not affordable, it's not reliable, it's not sustainable. We've been lied to every step of the way about it. So we can win this back, but don't do it through giving in to false arguments and appeasement. 8:45, wake up well.
Like a strong cup of coffee in the morning. Tasteless, but it'll get you through the day. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
8:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Back we go to the Icebox. Frank Gambino's waiting by. Okay, I'm going to take you to Yellowstone, into one of their little shops there in Yellowstone, Frank.
And there's some of there, yeah.
Yeah, and so while you're shopping there, you overhear something. This is at the Fishing Bridge General Store. Okay, where there's the attendant there is ringing up a box of animal crackers.
Animal crackers.
I love animal crackers.
Did
you eat those when you were a kid?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I love them now.
Yeah, they still are good. I haven't had the animal cracker shape before, but there's other cookies that taste just like it, right? Yeah. And so he decided to warn the people that were buying the animal crackers. That doesn't mean that you feed them to animals.
Right.
And then he reminded them that feeding them to animals could be a $30,000 fine.
$30,000?
Yes.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah, you're not supposed to feed the wildlife at the park.
Don't feed the bears.
Yeah, that could be a big fine. Now, I'm more worried about, say, the last part of the employee's disclaimer actually was inaccurate. Oh, okay, the maximum fine at Yellowstone is $5,000.
Oh, okay.
Okay, not $30,000. But $5,000 if you're caught feeding the animals there. So, no, don't feed the animals. When you buy animal crackers, those are not for the animals, is what he was saying.
Okay.
The fact that he felt the need to explain this to people.
Well, no, I mean, just to cover their legal rear ends. Say, hey,
I would guess
can't, just reminder, you can't do that. Please,
yes,
don't.
There's animal crackers and then there's animal crackers. So no,
and you could be an animal cracker to these animals.
God, some of these people are animal crackers. So no, some of these people are animal crackers. It's another way where you put the emphasis there, Frank. Yeah.
Either way.
So I wondered how many tourists have gone to the park and saw an animal and thought, oh, go ahead and toss them whatever they were eating.
More than a few, I'll bet.
Yeah.
I mean, over the course of the last 100 years.
Yes.
I mean, remember see those old pictures of Yellowstone and they're riding in the cars and all the people are feeding them?
Yes.
You know.
In the original years of cars in Yellowstone, they actually encouraged people to do stuff like that. And then people started to die. Go with sports.
All right, in college football, the Wyoming Cowboys will be on the road this week at North Texas looking for victory number 1 this year. Folks are 0 for 3 this season and look bad on both sides of the ball, and injuries have been a part of this. On offense, their 2 best guys, running back Harrison Whaley, number 1, has not played this season and will not play this week. This is a guy that rushed for over 900 yards a year ago. John Michael Gillenborg could be and should be the team's best pass catcher, but he missed the first 2 games and played in just 8 snaps in Saturday's loss to Brigham Young. Devontae Harris on the defensive line out with an elbow injury, and all this stuff snowballs and just adds up. And this next man up deal is good in theory, but sometimes the ability to level between the first string and the second string could be significant. Cowboys are 9-point underdogs. It's a 5 p.m. start from Denton on Saturday, and the Mean Green come in at 2-1. We'll have that game for you on KT Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. In the NFL, some former Wyoming Cowboys with good games last week. New Orleans defensive lineman Carl Granderson with 8 tackles and a sack and a half in their 44-19 win over Dallas. Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen threw for 139 yards and a touchdown with a 31-10 win over Miami. Casper native and Cincinnati linebacker Logan Wilson with 12 tackles in the Bengals' 26-25 loss to Kansas City. Another round of 4A high school football will be on Friday. The big game will have Sheridan hosting Cheyenne East. Both teams are 3-0. Sheridan will be looking for their 35th consecutive win that would set the all-time Wyoming high school record in that category. Another big game will have Campbell County traveling to Casper to beat Natrona. Campbell County is 3-0 and Natrona 2-1. Kelly Walsh is 2-1 and they'll be in Gillette to meet 0-3 Thunder Basin. 1-2 Laramie will be on the road to take on 1-2 Rock Springs, and Cheyenne South tangles with Cheyenne Central in a battle of 0-3 teams. And our latest Wild Preps high school football poll is out. In 4A, Sheridan number 1, East Nut 2, Campbell County 3, and Natrona 4, Kelly Walsh 5. In 3A, Star Valley remains number 1, Cody remains number 2, followed by Riverton, Powell, and Buffalo. Bighorn number 1 in 2A, followed by Mountain View, Lovell, Worland, and Cokeville. In 1A, 9-man, Lingle on top with Southeast 2nd, Pine Bluffs 3rd, Lusk 4th, and Saratoga 5th. And in 6-man, Little Snake River from Baggs right at 1st, and Catman 2nd, Burlington 3rd, Riverside 4th, and Matitsi 5th. That's it in sports.
Okay, so every so often when you mention like a Logan Wilson type, and I think the few times I've really watched football, which for me, I'm sorry, Frank, didn't last long.
I know.
But when I see somebody tackle like a Logan Wilson do, I'm thinking it looks like it hurts as much to be the tackler as it does the tackler.
Oh, I think he's inflicting more pain than he's absorbing.
I think so. Okay.
Yeah. It adds up, I'm sure, but but that feeling and say, you went nowhere once I met you.
Okay. It just, to me, no matter which end I'm on, it just looks painful. But if you say so.
Yeah, but it's okay,
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Pain is pain.
Yeah, pain is pain. Yeah. You say that till you stub your little toe at 2 in the morning.
Or step on a Lego,
yes,
right?
exactly. Oh, my Lord. Then pain's not just pain. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we have to take care of. We're going to roll into news time and get into the last hour of the program. 888-97 was the phone number. That 888-97-WOODS is how you call in to change the subject if you want to. So the Great Meat Reset is coming your way. Yeah, some climate change groups are trying to once again get you off of meat and dairy. I'll explain their ploy next. Six at a time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Okay, Chet, just for you and some other people who are commenting on this, I'll go back briefly to the pager thing, which I started at 6 o'clock this morning. I heard this yesterday, actually. As soon as I got off work, the story broke about the pagers. And I tracked it a little bit, especially this morning. For those who don't know, please send me a picture of the rock that you live under with the address so I can look it up. Or just send me your address so I can zoom in on Google Earth and see the rock you live under. I'll be happy to do that. So here's the deal. And it looks like Israel did it, but I'm not surprised. So here are some members of Hezbollah. And their leader said, stop using cell phones because Israelis are tracking your cell phones. That's how they find you and kill you. Instead, go get pagers. Now, I personally didn't think that pagers were a thing anymore. I thought we were done with pagers. They didn't. I mean, who really uses a pager anymore? There was a time I saw people all over the place with a pager. It was a big deal, but now, yeah. Then when the cell phone came out, remember there was a time that your pager told you that your cell phone had email. That was a thing at one time. But now we don't need pagers anymore. Who has them? Well, apparently there's some country, and what was it, folks? It was like, not India, but there was some other country that still makes pagers. And so a bunch were ordered for Hezbollah. Apparently Israel found out. And boy, did they get busy fast. So they must have had this planned out. They must have been ready for this. They got busy fast. And they got a hold of those pagers without anyone knowing, and they rigged them so they could explode. They're not much heavier than the original pager, not by much. And my understanding is they're able to put something in around the batteries that could explode. And they can cause the batteries to overheat remotely by using the pager. Calling it effectively. So they set it up so a bunch of pagers went off all at the same time. Didn't matter where the Hezbollah guy was. There's currently 12 dead. And I heard up to 3,000 wounded. Now, the 3,000 wounded could be anywhere from fingers blown off, face, and for guys who carry the pager in the pocket, something a whole lot worse, to just minor injuries. So it could really span quite a bit. There were 2 kids that died in this. 2 kids died. So 10 members of Hezbollah are dead because there's a lot of injuries. Again, fingers gone, eyeballs gone. It depends, because for quite a few people, they heard the pager go off, so they grabbed it to look at it. And that's when it went off. Other people, it was still on their belt or in their pocket when it went off. Wow, that was thinking. Whoever it was, they were really thinking, they're getting a bunch of pagers? Quick, let's get busy. I mean, they had to have a plan ready to go for something quickly. And I wonder if they had a plan for cell phones ready to go, but then said, well, we can do that with pagers too. Let's go. Did they buy them in China? No. It wasn't China, and I want to say Indonesia is what I want to say. Let's see. Oh, that's okay, Chet. Chet says, sorry, I slept to nearly 7:30. Chet was late for class today. Also, AC in Hillsborough, using the fallacy of anthropological global warming would be giving credence to opinion. Your message of all the failures and predictions would be great now. Yeah. And I will get into that probably later this week because I'm running out of time this hour. Jones in Casper wants to know, did they buy the pagers in China? Again, I think it was Indonesia that provided the pagers, and it was a new company. But the fact that Israel found out who the company was, how they were being transported, intercepted them, rigged them, got them back out there for delivery, and nobody knew, and then were able to set them off pretty much at the same time. Wow. Holy cow. I mean, that's James Bond 007 kind of stuff with Q working in the basement. That's just absolutely amazing. And, of course, people are mad. Hezbollah, we're going to get revenge on it. Well, you get revenge on everything, don't you? And I suppose people will try to condemn it. But to Hezbollah, I asked the question, so how does it feel when someone turns the tide? I mean, somebody goes to get in their car, and the car blows up, and Hezbollah did it. They do that a lot. Okay, well, Hezbollah, as far as I'm concerned, turnabout's fair play. So, all right. Now, the other story, by the way, I see Bill and Shan, I think I heard Hungary on the pagers. I'd have to go back and see, because this goes back to when you hear a news story, be careful, because usually the first thing you hear is there's inaccuracies in it. So we'll get more details as we get more on the pager story. But to me, the pager story is just absolutely fascinating. I have thought and seen in my lifetime a lot of different ways to go after and get people. A lot of really clever ways to kill somebody. Oh, the Russians have been the best at it. One that the Russians use several times over is a cane. Somebody would have a cane or maybe an umbrella. And then the tip of it would be something that's extremely deadly. And as they go walking down the street past the person that they plan to hit, They just take the umbrella and poke them. And that person dies a horrible death. There was also another one. The Russian operative was walking down the stairs, and he was carrying a newspaper. And in the newspaper was a powder, because the newspaper was rolled up. And all he had to do was give a slight puff. Try not to inhale it, or he could die too. And a little bit of that powder got on the guy walking by, and he's dead. If you want to know how to kill someone in a clever way, talk to the Russians. They've killed so many people. But a pager? Okay, that is a brand new one on me. I'd never heard of such a thing. Now, I had said before, I never knew that pagers still existed. I thought we were done with pagers. I thought it didn't exist anymore. But apparently people are still using them out there. Well Whisper in Platte Rapids, Wyoming. Today, walkie-talkies blew up. Yeah. And think about that for a bit. A lot of the old technology that they used to use to do really clever things with. Now with today's new technology, I do know that when we were in, let me see, I think it was, it was in Iraq. It was in Baghdad, that the terrorists would go ahead and hook up explosives, and they would take a cell phone and hook it up so if they called the cell phone would trigger the explosives. You just got to know someone who can do something like that, and they would, and, you know. So, yeah, a lot of today's technology gets really clever with stuff like this and a lot more dangerous. I think one of the favorite ones that I saw is what our troops did. So they had to go into a building. The building would be dark. Again, we're in Baghdad, so we're sending some of our boys into a building to clear the building. The building has been rigged with explosives and tripwires, which are essentially fishing line. So how do you overcome that in the dark like that? Well, our guys started to buy spray cans of silly string. And they would spray ahead of them because the silly string would lay across the tripwire without tripping it. So they could see where the tripwires were. I mean, that really clever. Roy in southeast Wyoming and Wheatland heard on the news today, pagers were from shell companies in Hungary. Okay. They were designed in, I see. Okay. So they're saying they were designed in Taiwan, but it was a shell company in Hungary. Okay. So let's back this up, Roy, based on what you're telling me. It sounds to me like Israel found out that they were going to get pagers. Quit using cell phones, go get pagers. So the Israelis set up a shell company, or maybe already had a shell company set up, just waiting to see how they pull the trigger. Whatever the case is, there's a shell company. They take a pager that was designed in Taiwan, they rig them through the shell company, and send them to Hezbollah. That's where I'm at right now, Roy, is what it sounds like you're telling me. Either way, think of the logistics and how fast they had to act on this. 916, Wake Up Wyoming.
Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app from K2 Radio.
9:21 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off to the phones I go, where Roy is going to help me out with the pager story. He's in Wheatland. Morning, Roy.
Hey, Glenn. Good morning.
Morning.
That's what I heard about the pagers.
Yeah.
And, unfortunately, we haven't heard very much of it on the news today. They keep wanting to talk about our presidential election 25 hours a day.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I heard, and everything you said, that's what I've heard.
Okay.
And
logistically, this must be absolutely amazing to catch that where they're going to switch to pagers, to have a shell company ready to go, know where to get the pagers, know how to put the explosives in there, and then get them undetected to Hezbollah. That's amazing.
Well, you don't mess with the IDF.
No.
The Israeli Defense Forces, and because they're talking about survival every day, and they get rockets these days every day, and it's we're talking about their survival for decades and decades, and you're an aviation guy, and so this will make sense to you, but years back, Israel got some planes, some fighters from the U.S., and they upgraded them in their own way. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways they upgraded them was they put a rearview mirror in the cockpit with the pilot. And so it's just simple, common sense thinking that can help these things out. But you know, when you have enemies all around you, you have to do something.
Do whatever you can. They invented the Iron Dome. They also invented for tanks, when something is fired at one of their tanks, the tank fires an explosive ahead of it in between the tank and the incoming explosive that creates a shock wave that destroys the incoming explosive. That's an Israeli invention that works really well. They come up with so many clever ideas. But again, you're right. It's survival. They have to.
Well, and you were talking about their tanks. I think it's pronounced their kind of tank is a Merkava tank, and they have at least the transmission, if not the engine, in the front of the tank to help with when the tank gets hit in the front to help survivability. Yeah. So you know, it's just they have to think it 24/7.
Yeah.
Of their survival.
I appreciate it, Roy. Thanks for the help on this one. I got to run to James in Casper, who wants to talk about carbon sequestration. Hello, James.
Hello, Glenn.
Yes, sir.
You and I spoke, I think it was a couple weeks ago, about the cost of carbon sequestration. My example was to take a Casper Mountain and take the basic length, height, and width dimensions, make that into essentially a rectangular cube, if you can visualize such a thing. Mm-hmm. And what it would cost to sequester that volume of CO2. And my calculations were, if you recall, anywhere from $20 to $25 billion. Mm-hmm. I was just wondering if anybody had responded, if anybody had come up with other numbers. And I would wonder if the next time you talk with our governor or any of these folks who are just so much in favor of doing CO2 sequestration, if they have something that they can offer as far as the cost of a given volume, so the rest of us know what we're getting for our tax dollars.
I'll ask the governor about that, and for what reward, really. We're putting all of this money into it. I mean, tens of millions of dollars, $15 million so far just up in Gillette. For what reward so far? I see no reason that we should be doing this.
No, and some of these folks saying, oh, yeah, we can sequester. It's almost as if they're talking about a reservoir system of where put up a dam, we can create a reservoir of water, and they don't seem to understand how difficult it is to inject and keep it in the ground, and we talked about that last time. And I haven't really heard anybody talking about the production of carbonic acid, which is what happens when CO2 meets with water under the right conditions. Right. And that has been a problem in the oil field for many decades.
Right.
Carbonic acid is very corrosive on mild steel. And a lot of times where this is present, companies are forced to go to stainless steel pipes and other devices that are underground so that they don't get corroded and literally eaten up by the carbonic acid. So there's nothing easy about any of this.
Yeah, I would still say one of the best solutions I ever heard, though, is a friend of mine up in Gillette suggested this. And at first he laughed, and then he got quiet and thought about it and said, that would actually work. Imagine, let's take one of the power plants up in Gillette with those big steam stacks, because they're not smokestacks anymore. And since that's a lot of humidity and a lot of CO2, just make some really big greenhouses and pump all of that right through the greenhouses year-round. You could grow year-round. It's extra humidity, which the plants will love. It's warm, the plants will love it. And it's packed with CO2, which is airborne fertilizer. Man, you can grow some crops.
Oh, absolutely. And with you having grown up in Florida and down closer to the equator, I mean, you look at how well plants grow under essentially those very similar conditions with a lot of moisture and a lot of CO2. So, that's brilliant. That's very good.
All right. Thank you. Go ahead.
If you wouldn't mind, just, ask these folks, say, all right, you're saying it's so good.
Yeah.
Give me some numbers.
All right.
Prove it to me.
All right. I will, because that's a good point. Thank you, James. I appreciate it. Yeah, it all sounds good until you start running the numbers. Let me go back to this again, because, I pick on wind and solar a lot. When you run the numbers, they keep saying wind power and solar power is free energy. Really? Is it? Let's run the numbers on that. Why is it so heavily subsidized? And when the subsidies run out, they go out of business. And as I pointed out before, by running the numbers, this stuff is not clean or green or sustainable or affordable or reliable. None of these things. And that they keep pushing it on us. So, same thing with carbon sequestration. You're essentially taking something that's very necessary for life on this planet, CO2, and calling it a pollutant and doing all you can to get rid of it, which is just, at this point, it's just insane. Morning, Micah. She's in Cheyenne sending me notes. I do have that story. If I can get to it next, we'll see. Meat rationing. Yeah, they think they found a way to finally get meat off of your dinner plate. I'll talk about that after local news update on your weather forecast. You and I get back into it again. 888-97 Woods the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Now, Glenn Woods fits in your pocket with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Before I get on to the topic I've reserved here, Keith is in Cheyenne. He said, Glenn, do you know anything about the commercials asking us to contact Congress to keep AM radios in cars? Are there plans to phase out AM? Well, not AM, no, but there are some car manufacturers out there, mostly electric car manufacturers. In fact, I think it was only electric car manufacturers, last I read it, that did not want to put AM radio in automobiles. So there's no plan to phase out AM radio stations. But there are a few car manufacturers, well, we're just not going to put AM radio. And their reasoning is because it could interfere with our electronics. It's an electric car. And so this campaign was started to, no, you got to keep AM radio in the car. Now, believe it or not, I'm against the campaign, even though most talk radio is on AM radio. I like markets to do what they do. Let the market figure it out. All right. Now, as far as AM radio itself, most talk radio is on AM, and it's what saved AM radio. For those people out there who are looking to advertise, think of it this way. The talk radio audience, I have people, this is typical of talk radio, who are talking to me, sending me text messages before I get on the air. And I get on the air at 6 a.m. And they stick with me the entire program. And I'm on for 4 hours. And then they continue listening all day. And it's not background noise. It's up front. They're listening. They're engaged. And these people are the movers and shakers of your community. They're usually middle or upper income. They have jobs or they own companies. They're your politicians, your mayors and congressmen, and et cetera, it goes. And so the people who listen to AM radio is a large and very engaged audience that's paying attention. So it's been great for advertisers to advertise on AM radio because people actually are paying attention and listening. And it's a huge audience, too. And most talk radio is on AM radio. Now, there is one station in one of the stations that carries this program is an FM station. But the others are AM stations. Now, people also listen over the app. So if they don't have an AM radio in your car, you can always just, when you get in your car, it syncs with your phone. You can just listen over the app, too. But AM radio is also very important for a lot of other reasons, especially when there's an emergency. It travels much farther than FM radio. FM radio is good for music because it's so clear and crisp, but it's a limited line of sight radio. Okay. But I got into talk radio for a lot of reasons, and one of them is because you, the audience, you're engaged. You're listening. And you're talking with me the entire time, and you hang through the entire program. That's why I think AM radio is really important. There are some car manufacturers that didn't want to put AM radio in vehicles anymore, and there was big backlash against it. Okay, so headline for you. Great Food Reset. Meat rationing has arrived. Banks are urged to stop financing livestock production. For this, over 100 climate groups are pressuring J.P. Morgan Chase, Citigroup, and other private banks to stop financing global meat and dairy companies. AgriculturalDive.com says the Institute's leading activities undermine their environmental commitment. An open letter from the group, led by Friends of the Earth to some of the world's largest banks, and calls for a halt to any new financing that expands industrial livestock production and to add requirements that meat, dairy, and feed clients disclose their climate action plans. Can you think about the action there? Not only do you not get the money, but if you're going to keep doing it, you have to disclose your climate action plan to save the earth. And their letter calls out banks by name. The largest banks, of course, have to be on there. And animal feed products like JBS, Tyson Food, and others. These are the same people that, by the way, tried stopping the banks from doing anything with energy, coal, gas, and oil. While food companies are a small part of the bank's overall lending portfolio, the story says the groups say they have a much bigger impact on the institutions of environmental footprints. The letter says increased leading has left the world's biggest emitters grow their operations and emissions. Again, I'm glad they're growing their emissions because CO2, I'll keep saying it, is not a pollutant, and it is necessary for life on this earth, and so we should have more of it. But watch it now. Once again, this is part of that ESG thing. Once again, we've got to go after, since we can't get this done through legislation, we can't get government to act. Even though politicians talk a great game, in most of the world, politicians are not acting on climate issues. They talk a game, but they don't do it. So these environmental activists are trying to do it a completely different way by going through the banks, for example. They've tried the same thing with guns, coal, gas, and oil, and now on the food you eat. Morning, Bunny. Bunny's in Cheyenne. Aloha. Howdy, Glenn. I hang with you as you sound sincere and fun. Please have a great day. Well, thank you, buddy. Smalls in Casper. I listen with my earbuds every day until 4 p.m. Wow, that's a long day. That's a long time. But this is what I mean. The talk rate, this is one of the reasons I got into talk radio. The talk radio audience, you folks, you are engaged in the issues in your community. And so you tune in early and you stay late. And this is not background noise to you. Which is why as I talk, it's not just the phone calls that the show gets. It's all of the people who text me while I'm on the air and chat. Because they want to get involved in the issues, in the conversation. And talk radio does it more than any other kind of radio. And that's mostly on AM. So some car companies out there want to stop putting AM radios in cars. Big mistake on their part. I think they lose business by doing it. 9:43, wake up.
Local and mobile across Wyoming and beyond with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
9:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Frank Gambino, who's off there in the icebox. Okay, Frank, I got something that's going to get me really excited, but something that'll get you really excited, just to show people more differences between you and me. Okay,
all right, yeah. We're getting excited for different reasons.
Oh, yeah, completely.
Okay.
So I just came across this story on the Wake Up Wyoming site. Don't miss out on the free blizzards at Wyoming's Dairy Queen.
I love blizzards.
Oh, okay. Because I figured you'd be...
Well, I mean, not the ones with snow in it. You know.
No. But okay.
What's the catch?
Wyoming Whiskey releases 2 new bottles of great bourbon.
I wasn't a big fan of Wyoming whiskey when it first came out.
Okay, now wait. Let me back up on that. Because I remember when Wyoming whiskey first came out, I showed up at a place that was putting it on the shelves, and as soon as a girl put 2 bottles up, 2 bottles disappeared. Everybody was showing up.
Yeah, they just took one sip out of it and threw it in the garbage.
So I went and grabbed a bottle, and I brought it to some friends of mine. We had a little man cave garage thing going there. And I said, okay, guys, what do you think? And they did exactly what you said. They all went,
yeah.
Okay.
The second batch was better, evidently.
That was what I heard from everybody was they were just so eager to release it that they released it way too early. It wasn't ready yet. So the next batch, they gave it time to make sure it was right.
Yeah.
And since then, there seem to be people who thoroughly enjoy Wyoming whiskey. Okay. So you might want to go back and try again.
Yeah, just, all right, as long as it's improved. Okay. They have a nice building there, too.
Sure. So depending on I have been to the building. It's a really nice place. In a place that, I pulled into and thought, this is a town?
Okay. Oh, Kirby?
Yeah. It's cute. But that's a town. Okay. But okay, so let me get this straight. Depending on whether there's a catch or not, you would be showing up with me to get the blizzard over the whiskey.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought you would be the whiskey guy.
No. I don't. Ice cream.
Yes. Okay.
Comes first.
For me, mint Oreo blizzard.
Yeah. That's Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Want the big chunks of Oreos in there too. Okay. Go with sports.
Okay. We'll talk about high school football. Our latest WyoPreps poll is out in 4A. Sheridan remains number 1. Cheyenne East remains number 2. Campbell County 3. Natrona 4. And Kelly Walsh 5. In 3A, Star Valley is rated number 1. And Cody remains 2nd, followed by Riverton, Powell, and Buffalo. Bighorn rated number 1 in 2A, followed by Mountain View, Lovell, Worland, and Cokeville. And 1A, 9-man, Lingle on top with Southeast 2nd, Pine Bluffs 3rd, Lusk 4th, and Saratoga 5th, and in 1A 6-man, Little Snake River ranked 1st, and Campman 2nd, Burlington 3rd, Riverside 4th, and Matitsi 5th. Another round of 4A football coming up on Friday in the prep ranks. The big game will have Sheridan hosting Cheyenne East on Friday night. Both teams are 3-0, and Sheridan will be looking for their 35th straight win that would set the all-time Wyoming high school record for that category. Another big game will have Campbell County traveling to Casper to beat Natrona. Campbell County's 3-0, and Natrona's 2-1. Casper Kelly Walsh is 2-1. They're going to be up in Gillette to meet 0-3 Thunder Basin. 1-2 Laramie will be on the road to take on 1-2 Rock Springs, and Cheyenne South and Cheyenne Central will meet up in a battle of 0-3 teams. College football, the Wyoming Cowboys will be on the road this week at North Texas, looking for their first victory after the year after 3 losses, and they have looked bad on both sides of the ball, and injuries have been a part of this. Now, on offense, their 2 best guys on that side of the ball, running back Harrison Whaley and receiver John Michael Gillenborg, have not played very much. Matter of fact, Whaley has not played at all, and here's a guy that rushed for 947 yards a year ago. Gillenborg could be and should be the team's best pass catcher, but he's missed the first 2 games of the season and played in just 8 snaps in Saturday's loss. Devontae Harris on the defensive line is out with an injury, and all these injuries are starting to snowball here. And the next man up deal is a good theory, but sometimes the ability level between the first and second strings can be significant. Folks are 9-point underdogs. It's a 5 p.m. start from Denton on Saturday. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. In the NFL, former Wyoming Cowboy defensive end, former Wyoming Cowboys had some pretty good games in the NFL on Sunday. New Orleans defensive lineman Carl Granderson with 8 tackles and a sack in their 44-19 win over Dallas. Buffalo quarterback Josh Allen threw for 139 yards and a TD in their win over Miami. And Casper native and Cincinnati linebacker Logan Wilson had 12 tackles in the Bengals' 26-25 loss to Kansas City. That's it in sports.
I have a theory about UW football fans in this coming weekend that they're just going to ask later what was the score. They're not going to.
They may be afraid to watch.
Yes, I'm really afraid of that. Or listen, for that matter. They're just the next day what happened.
If they're ahead by halftime, then you can say, oh, okay, let's go check this out here.
Sure.
And if they're behind big at halftime, you know what, just give me another beer, we're going to watch.
Yes. What did you think of my other theory that I gave you yesterday, which was, look, they might lose, but as long as they don't look bad losing, then we're okay.
No,
okay.
They need to win.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Frank. I'm just trying to give these guys some kind of a benefit of the doubt. All right, 888-97 Wood. No, wait a second. No, forget that. We'll do it again tomorrow. To Wake Up Wyoming.